Millionaire shocked to see male beggar piano prodigy asking for a meal. It was pouring like the sky was tearing open, the cold rain cutting through everything on the streets of New York. Henry Smith shuffled down Fifth Avenue, his coat threadbare and soaked, feet dragging over puddles that mirrored the blazing city lights. At 70, his face told the story of 1,000 hard nights, deep lines carved by time and struggle, eyes dim but flickering with a strange fire. Nobody would guess this frail man once commanded concert halls, filling them with Chopin's soul. Then right out of nowhere, Henry stumbled into the iron gates of the Sterling estate, the kind of place with marble steps so shiny you could almost drown in your reflection. Inside, laughter and clinking glasses echoed through the cavernous rooms, dripping with gold-framed paintings and glittering chandeliers. $1 million party, and here was Henry, muddy shoes, trembling hands, asking the butler for a meal. Victor S. But Victor, curious despite himself, offered a strange proposal. Play just one song at the grand piano in the center of the room. Feed the man. Henry's heart slammed in his chest, muscles tight with hunger and shame. He hesitated, but nodded, the echo of his name once celebrated spinning in his ears like a distant melody. Those polished guests scoffed openly as he shuffled toward the gleaming black grand piano, hands shaking, soaked sleeves clinging to brittle skin. Laughter bubbled up, mocking, cruel. They saw a broken man, not an artist. Then, fingers struck the keys. A haunting Chopin nocturne rose from Henry's trembling hands. The notes dripped like cold tears at first, fragile and raw, then grew richer, swelling like a dark storm swirling inside the gilded room. Eyes widened. Smug smiles vanished. The laughter died. Every rich face held captive by sound, by the unexpected beauty of forgotten brilliance. Whispers turned to breathless awe. Someone gasped, clutching their pearls. Victor watched, stunned, his jaw clenched tight. The party froze, each soul caught in the spell of Henry's music. Clapping burst out, hesitant, then fierce, shaking the grand walls with sudden, shattering respect. Henry stood there, chest heaving, feeling a glimmer, just a flicker of hope ignite in that stale, heavy air. Victor stepped forward, extending a strong hand. "Let me help you," he said softly. But Henry's jaw stiffened. No. He shook his head, voice cracked but firm. "The music, that's my chance. Nothing else." The crowd was spellbound, the applause still ringing. Yet inside Henry, doubt churned like thunder behind the calm. Could he trust them? Could he let down his walls? Carmen, a familiar face in the crowd, his former student, watched with tears catching the light. Her own heart torn between pride and sorrow. The night held its breath. Would Henry accept this lifeline, or let pride and fear pull him back into the shadows? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Henry stood there, hands trembling above the piano keys, surrounded by a sea of affluent faces, all spellbound by the haunting melody rising from him. Hope ignited briefly in his chest, but doubt hung heavy, like thick fog pressing in around him. Could he really accept this lifeline, this offer from Victor? And then a sudden crash shattered the delicate atmosphere. The grand entrance doors flew open, and in burst a dark figure, silhouetted against the torrential rain. Gasps echoed around the room. Heads turned, eyes widening in shock. It was a woman, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to her face. But the mood shifted instantly from astonishment to horror as she pointed a finger straight at Henry. "Stop! You can't let him play!" Her voice was raw, cutting through the rich laughter that lingered like smoke. The room fell silent, anticipation thrumming like a tense string ready to snap. Henry's heart dropped. He recognized her, but barely dared to believe. Sophia? The name trembled on his lips, a fragile whisper slipping into the heavy air. The crowd murmured, confusion swirling among them. Who was this drenched woman? But Henry knew. Sophia, his daughter, estranged for years, stood before him, a tempest of emotion etched on her weary face. She had grown up fast, life carving its own deep lines around her once smooth cheeks. "You can't trust him," she choked, voice breaking. "You have to know the truth." Henry's world tilted. The music faded, the glistening room warped around him. "Truth?" he echoed, grappling with disbelief. "You're here after all this time?" Tears streamed down her mud-streaked cheeks. "He stole from you, Dad, and he's been lying. He was never just a millionaire." Victor's expression shifted from shock to rage. "What are you implying?" He stepped forward, fists clenched, eyes ablaze. The guests, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, exchanged horrified glances. Someone whispered, "Is this a joke?" Another voice cut through, higher, shriller. "What kind of lunatic is this?" But Sophia continued, voice steady, cutting through the murmurs. "That man, he took your music, your dreams. He used you. Victor bought your silence, and all this facade is crumbling now." Henry felt the ground shake beneath him, his heart pounding like the storm outside. Memories flooded back, his struggles, Victor's sweet promises that turned bitter over time. He had trusted Victor. Had he really sold his soul? The applause faded, leaving a hollow ache. Would they even believe Sophia? Victor was ingrained in their lives, in the glitzy tapestry of luxury and wealth. But for Henry, the music and the pain all twisted into one. Victor's face darkened, the facade beginning to fracture. "Enough! You're just a misguided child, trying to ruin everything." He reached for Henry's shoulder, but Henry recoiled, stepping back into the piano, touching the keys like friends he hadn't seen in years. The room seethed with uncertainty, eyes darting from Henry to Sophia, searching for answers, waiting for some resolution. Yet, as the storm raged outside and the crowd bubbled over with confusion, sparks of newfound awareness flickered in Henry's chest. "What do you mean, stole? The recordings, your masterpiece, the concert. He never intended for you to shine. Everything you thought was yours was just another pawn in his game." The words hung heavy in the air. Secrets unspooled like thread, weaving a tapestry of betrayal. Henry's heart raced, twisting in knots. Could he trust her, or was this yet another cruel trick that life had spun? As silence gripped the room, the pounding rain seemed to pulse like the anxious beating of his heart. Everything he had known now felt like smoke slipping through his fingers. He could feel the crowd's eyes on him, expectant, teetering on the edge of this revelation. But Henry was lost in a maze of pain and confusion. Would he take her hand, or retreat back into solitude? The question echoed in the shadows of each note he played, and a world of disappeared dreams loomed before him. Henry stood there, hands trembling above the piano keys, surrounded by a sea of affluent faces, all spellbound by the haunting melody rising from him. Hope ignited briefly in his chest, but doubt hung heavy, like thick fog, pressing in around him. Could he really accept this lifeline? This offer from Victor? And then, a sudden crash shattered the delicate atmosphere. The grand entrance doors flew open, and in burst a dark figure, silhouetted against the torrential rain. Gasps echoed around the room. Heads turned, eyes widening in shock. It was a woman, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to her face. But the mood shifted instantly, from astonishment to horror, as she pointed a finger straight at Henry. "Stop! You can't let him play!" Her voice was raw, cutting through the rich laughter that lingered like smoke. The room fell silent, anticipation thrumming like a tense string ready to snap. Henry's heart dropped. He recognized her, but barely dared to believe. Sophia? The name trembled on his lips, a fragile whisper slipping into the heavy air. The crowd murmured, confusion swirling among them. Who was this drenched woman? But Henry knew. Sophia, his daughter, estranged for years, stood before him, a tempest of emotion etched on her weary face. She had grown up fast, life carving its own deep lines around her once smooth cheeks. "You can't trust him," she choked, voice breaking. "You have to know the truth." Henry's world tilted. The music faded. The glistening room warped around him. "The truth," he echoed, grappling with disbelief. "You're here, after all this time?" Tears streamed down her mud-streaked cheeks. "He stole from you, Dad, and he's been lying. He was never just a millionaire." Victor's expression shifted from shock to rage. "What are you implying?" He stepped forward, fists clenched, eyes ablaze. The guests, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, exchanged horrified glances. Someone whispered, "Is this a joke?" Another voice cut through, higher, shriller. "What kind of lunatic is this?" But Sophia continued, voice steady, cutting through the murmurs. "That man, he took your music, your dreams. He used you. Victor bought your silence, and all this facade is crumbling now." Henry felt the ground shake beneath him, his heart pounding like the storm outside. Memories flooded back. His struggles, Victor's sweet promises that turned bitter over time. He had trusted Victor. Had he really sold his soul? The applause faded, leaving a hollow ache. Would they even believe Sophia? Victor was ingrained in their lives, in the glitzy tapestry of luxury and wealth. But for Henry, the music and the pain all twisted into one. Victor's face darkened, the facade beginning to fracture. "Enough. You're just a misguided child trying to ruin everything." He reached for Henry's shoulder, but Henry recoiled, stepping back into the piano, touching the keys like friends he hadn't seen in years. The room seethed with uncertainty, eyes darting from Henry to Sophia, searching for answers, waiting for some resolution. Yet, as the storm raged outside and the crowd bubbled over with confusion, sparks of "What do you mean, stole?" "The recordings, your masterpiece, the concert. He never intended for you to shine. Everything you thought was yours was just another pawn in his game." The words hung heavy in the air, secrets unspooled like thread, weaving a tapestry of betrayal. Henry's heart raced, twisting in knots. Could he trust her? Or was this yet another cruel trick that life had spun? As silence gripped the room, the pounding rain seemed to pulse like the anxious beating of his heart. Everything he had known now felt like smoke slipping through his fingers. Suddenly, a loud crack from the thunder split through the silence. The lights flickered, shadows danced across the walls, and then the grand chandelier above them rattled dangerously. "Henry!" A voice rang out. It was Carmen, his former student, her eyes wide with an expression of shock. "You have to remember, we were there." Her words trailed off in urgency. "You were never meant to fade away like this." "What do you mean?" Henry's eyes darted to her, desperation clawing at him. Carmen stepped closer, her gaze flickering between him and Sophia. "Your last concert, They planned it, Victor and I. But before she could finish, the lights extinguished completely. Darkness enveloped the room. Panic erupted. Screams pierced the silence. Henry's heart raced. He felt warmth on his chin. Blood? Had the chandelier fallen? "Get out!" someone shouted, followed by the chaotic shuffling of feet. In the chaos, a blinding flash came from the side. Henry's heart dropped as he realized it was Victor, holding something metallic in the dark, eyes glinting like a predator. "Your music has caused enough trouble," he yelled, voice booming. Then, bang! A deafening sound echoed. Henry blinked in the darkness, hoping to wake from this nightmare. Had he finally lost it all? All he could hear was the pounding rain, mixing with the chaos unfolding around him. Unraveled threads spun wild, and within the cacophony, a shocking truth lingered, ready to force the light back into the dark. What had really happened that night? And would anyone survive to tell the tale? The darkness wrapped around Henry like a heavy blanket, the silence almost suffocating after the chaos. He could hardly make sense of anything as panic pulsed through the crowd. He felt disoriented, his heart racing, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The clang of Victor's shout echoed ominously in his ears, a specter of the man he thought he knew. Then, the lights flickered back on, splitting the shadows and revealing a scene that made his blood run cold. People were scrambling, limbs tangled as they fought for the exit. But then Henry's gaze locked onto something, or rather, someone. Victor stood there, still poised in the center of the room, a chilling smile curling his lips. Far too satisfied despite the chaos. "Why don't we just end this charade?" Victor's voice cut through the air like ice. "After all, it was never meant to be yours." Henry's chest tightened. What did he mean by that? And then it hit him. The truth. He couldn't shake off the memories of the past, swirling in his mind. Each one a reminder of deals made, promises broken. "What do you know about my music?" he demanded, voice trembling. Victor's smile widened, filled with a dark glee. "Oh, so you really don't remember? Did you think you were the only one who could play?" And just like that, a chill coursed through Henry. Victor took a step closer. "You were just a pawn, Henry. It was always my music. I wrote it. I made it flourish." A bunch of gasps erupted, voices humming confusion and disbelief. The crowd swayed uneasily, eyes flitting between Henry and Victor as if waiting for the wind to change direction. "What?" Henry's voice cracked, confusion tumbling into fury. "You're lying." No, Victor pressed, every word slicing deeper. "You were good, Henry. I gave you a chance when you had nothing. But the music? That was always mine. You were just more convenient." A chill wrapped around Henry. Had he really given up everything for this man? Memories spilled into a chasm of betrayal. Pain clawed at his insides. And then it struck him. Every moment, every shimmering promise came crashing down like glass shattering in slow motion. And before he could gather his thoughts, Sophia stepped forward, desperation lacing her voice. "Henry, listen! He's been manipulating you, using your own melodies against you. Don't you see?" As she spoke, a low hum began to rise, a disturbance from somewhere deep in the ground, throbbing like a heartbeat. Then, with a sudden roar, the lights flickered once more, trembling above them. It wasn't just the storm outside. The walls themselves seemed to shake with some hidden force. "Get out!" someone screamed, and panic erupted anew. People rushed, fighting against each other as the fear swelled like a thick fog. "Henry!" Carmen shouted, her voice rising above the tumult. "We have to go. Now!" But just then, out of the corner of his eye, Henry spotted something gleaming near the piano. It was a small, ornate key, almost hidden under a cascade of fallen sheet music. He kicked through the pages, heart pounding with a mixture of dread and hope. "What's this?" he mumbled, reaching for it. Victor seemed unperturbed by the chaos. "You think a key will save you now?" he laughed. "It'll be your downfall." "Shut up!" Henry snapped, feeling the pain swell into defiance. As he picked up the key, something surged through him, a connection he hadn't felt in years. In that moment, an unexpected clarity struck. It wasn't just a key. It was the answer to a door he had long forgotten existed. An explosion of memories filled his mind. Sounds, laughs, arguments. A family torn apart by ambition and greed. Sophia rushed to him, tears glowing in her eyes like lanterns flickering through the dark. "Please, trust me this time." But trust felt like a fragile thread. Had she been telling the truth? Was Victor the devil he claimed to be? And as the lights fizzled out again, he felt a pulse in his hands. The key felt warm, alive, and he realized it wasn't just about the music. It was about redemption, about reclaiming everything he lost. Then, in one sweeping second, the ground shook violently. The walls creaked, and the chandelier above swung dangerously as an eerie flash ignited from somewhere above, burning through the smoke of the storm. He caught one last glimpse of Victor's face, a mask of rage, and then everything shattered into complete darkness. What had he unleashed? What truth lay hidden behind the lockdown of his past? With the key gripped fiercely in hand, Henry felt a wellspring of hope surging inside, but the looming question resonated. Could he handle whatever lay on the other side? The darkness wrapped around Henry, heavy and stifling. He stood there, key in hand, his heart pounding like trapped thunder. Sophia was right there, desperately pleading, but doubt tethered him. Could he trust her? Just then, a deafening crack reverberated across the room. The chandelier swayed violently, the ground quaking as though it had awakened from a deep slumber. Screams erupted, mingling with the chaos. Shadows danced frantically, reflecting the turmoil building inside him. "Get out!" someone shouted again, their voice lost in the wave of panic. Henry's mind raced. He could feel the key pulsing in his palm, its warmth sending shivers through him. Everything felt off, like the world had been turned upside down. And just as he thought about making a move, a piercing light flashed through the chaos, blinding him momentarily. When his vision returned, he glanced at Victor, who had turned pale. The millionaire stood frozen, a mask of fear replacing his arrogance, eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. Suddenly, the sound of an electric hum pierced the air, and the lights flickered wildly. Then, something unexpected happened. The piano erupted with a sound that wasn't Henry's playing. It was a melody he had never heard, filling the room with an intensity that wrapped around him like a cold embrace. "What's that?" Henry gasped, the key slipping from his fingers, clattering onto the floor. "Keep playing," Victor yelled, but his voice was lost amid the swelling music that grew more powerful, more insistent. It wasn't just a song. It was. It resonated deep in his bones, awakening memories he had buried long ago. And suddenly, he could see flashes of the past, the concert halls, the laughter, the applause, and darkness lurking like a shadow. Then gasps erupted again, as a figure stepped from behind the curtain that lined the room's edge. A tall woman, draped in shadows, yet radiating power. "Enough!" she called out, her voice commanding and clear. Every eye turned, fear and curiosity swirling together. Henry squinted. "Who are you?" The figure flickered like lightning as the music continued to swell, taking control of the room. "I'm here to end this cycle of lies," she said, stepping into the light. The crowd collectively gasped. Her features emerged, a breathtaking face with familiar eyes. She looked exactly like Henry. The resemblance was uncanny, and yet she was different. Older, more poised. "Sarah Bell," Victor cursed, his voice trembling. "You are supposed to stay hidden." Henry stumbled back, heart racing. "Who are you? Why do you look like me?" "I am your reflection, the part of you that's been buried beneath the music and the silence. Your twin sister," she revealed, every word striking like a lightning bolt, igniting memories he thought had faded. I was silenced, but not for long. I'm back to reclaim the truth. The crowd erupted in whispers, shock cascading through them. This was a twist he never saw coming, an entire life hidden in a single sentence. The key that had slipped from his fingers now seemed trivial, overwhelmed by the surge of revelations. Victor's expression morphed into a mask of rage. "You were meant to be forgotten. You're nothing but a lie. Your lies end tonight, Victor. The music belongs to Henry, and I will not let you drown him in shadows any longer," Sarah Bell declared, composure unwavering. A chill swept through the room as Henry stood in shock, grappling with the weight of the moment. Could it be true? Had he lost a sibling to the very man who had promised to elevate him? The ground trembled beneath him once more, but this time it felt like both a warning and a promise. Lights flickered ominously again, blending shadows with hope. The storm outside howled, pounding against the massive estate. Everything felt charged, drumming a rhythm in sync with his own quickening heartbeat. A flicker of recognition sparked between him and Sarah Bell. Would they stand together against Victor? Or was this just the beginning of something far darker, lurking just beneath the surface? As doubt loomed over him like a thick cloud, Henry realized he was caught between two worlds, one of light and shadows. And as the music crescendoed, he felt the decision press against him like a deep breath before diving into the unknown. Would they uncover more than they could handle? The air thickened with tension, each note spiraling into a crescendo that pulled everyone closer to the edge. Henry's heart thundered in his chest, the truth of his sister's existence crashing against the weight of Victor's cruel words. Sarah Bell stood strong, her presence a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. But doubt clung to Henry like a heavy fog. "Henry!" Sophia shouted, stepping forward again, her eyes wide and pleading. "You have to believe her. This is bigger than us." He took a breath, but before he could voice his thoughts, the lights flickered dangerously. A thunderous racket jolted through the room, drowning out the tension. Something was happening. The very ground beneath them trembled. Suddenly, the windows rattled violently, rain beating against the glass like 1,000 frantic drummers. The storm outside boomed louder, as if echoing the turmoil within. And then, with a deafening crack, the lights surged brighter for a brief second before plunging them into utter darkness. A collective gasp erupted. "Not again," Henry muttered, feeling the panic rise around him like a balloon inflating. But then, through the murk, a figure emerged. This time it wasn't Sarah Bell. The contours of a face materialized, familiar yet foreign. A man, tall and imposing, with slicked-back hair and a tailored suit, stepped into the weak light. "Surprise, dear brother," he bellowed, a sinister grin creeping across his lips. "Did you miss me?" Henry's stomach dropped. "What?" The voice echoed like a ghost he'd never expected to haunt him. Standing there was Nathan, his estranged twin, lost to the world for years, rumored to have vanished because of their family's dark past. The room shifted again, silence hanging pregnant with unease. Gasps filled the air. "You're alive?" Henry barely whispered, taking a step back, the key slipping from his trembling fingers. "I'm more than alive," Nathan laughed, his eyes glinting with malice. "I've been watching, always watching. And now?" He leaned closer, his voice low and conspiratorial. It's time to settle the score. Chaos erupted. Guests screamed, their faces morphing into masks of horror and confusion. "What is happening?" someone cried. "Is this real?" Victor's face turned ashen, eyes darting wildly. "No, this is impossible." "Oh, it's very possible, Victor. You thought you could erase us. Erase our legacy?" Nathan continued, every word slicing through the thick atmosphere. "You thought you could control everything. But the truth is, you're not the puppet master. You never were." Henry struggled to grasp it all. Reality flipped. Everything he thought he knew about his family, his music, it shattered like glass into a million pieces. "What are you talking about?" he managed. Just then, the music still echoed faintly from the unseen piano, a haunting melody threading through the chaos. It felt alive again, swirling around like an invisible current. "The music was never yours alone, Henry," Nathan shouted over the noise, the fervor igniting in his voice. "It belongs to all of us." The compositions, they hold our family's curse. A tidal wave of realization crashed over him. The music, their bond, hidden beneath layers of deceit and betrayal. The very fabric of their family history intertwined with the melodies they created. "Your sister," Nathan gestured at Sarabelle, "thought she could be saved from the truth, from me. But no one escapes." His laughter bounced off the walls, a full-bodied sound that sent chills racing along Henry's spine. "Stop!" Sarabelle shouted, stepping forward. "You don't understand." But Nathan raised a hand, his face twisting into a mocking grin. "Understand? I know everything. I know what you did, Sarabelle. You left me to rot, just like Henry did." His words dripped with venom. Everything froze. The crowd watched in stunned silence, processing the revelation. Henry's mind spun. Nathan lost? No. It was so much more than that. It was all tangled in a web of convoluted histories and lies. Would they all pay for the sins of their family? The storm howled, rage echoing their distress. Time seemed suspended. What did it all mean for him, for Sophia, for Sarabelle? The secrets, now unshackled, hung heavy in the air like storm clouds. "Trust is dead," Nathan said, a twisted glee sparking in his eyes. "But the music? Oh, it will thrive in chaos." As the floor shook again, Henry felt the truth. A storm brewed, not outside but within. Relationships tethered on the brink, each moment swirling with uncertainty and anguish. Who could he trust now? And then Nathan raised his voice, echoing through the tumult like a clarion call. "Time to choose sides, dear brother." The room crashed back into chaos, swirling into darkness again. Henry stood frozen. And just like that, everything changed. Again. Who was really the enemy? Who was the ally? A new reality unfolded, and with it, the real struggle began. The air crackled with tension, a palpable storm brewing in the hearts of everyone present. Henry's head spun, the revelations crashing over him like waves. Nathan, his estranged twin, stood in front of him, eyes blazing with a twisted kind of glee. They were brothers, linked by blood and shadow, and yet worlds apart. The chaos swirled, a storm in the room. "Two sides, dear brother," Nathan shouted, the malice in his voice sending a shiver through the crowd. Anxiety rippled among them. Whispers spiraled like wildfires. But just as Henry opened his mouth to respond, another booming crack rumbled from above, almost drowning out Nathan's taunts. The room shuddered. Then came the sound, an ear-splitting crash from the upper balcony as the grand chandelier, already swinging erratically, came crashing down. People screamed, scrambling away. Everything seemed to slow as the massive fixture fell toward them. Henry's heart raced. He leaped toward Sophia, pulling her out of the way. The chandelier shattered into 1,000,000 pieces, scattering shards like dangerous confetti. The crowd erupted into panic, desperate to escape. "Get out!" Henry yelled, shoving Sophia and Carmen toward the door. But his eyes remained locked on Nathan. The man stood unharmed, laughing amidst the chaos, drawing strength from the fear unfolding around them. What kind of monster was this? But before Henry could get his thoughts straight, something extraordinary happened. Deep within the wreckage of light and glass, a figure emerged. Not Nathan, not Victor. A woman, her face obscured by dust and debris, stepped forward, soaked from the rain, yet radiating an uncanny familiarity. Henry felt his breath hitch in his throat. It was their mother, Amelia. "Mom?" Henry gasped, eyes wide. But it wasn't just a mirage. There she was, as real as the chaos surrounding them. "How is this?" He stumbled, the world tilting on its axis. 1,000 questions blasted through him. Hadn't she vanished years ago, leaving them with scars and secrets? Amelia raised her hand, silencing the cries around her. "I've come for you both," she said, voice steady as the world crumbled. Henry felt the ground beneath him tremble, but it wasn't from terror. No, it was recognition. Everything spun, pulling him deeper into a whirlpool of memories. What could she possibly mean? "I sacrificed everything to shield you," she yelled, gaze fierce. "You don't understand. Nathan has manipulated your minds with the truth I kept hidden. You were never meant to find each other like this." Nathan's laugh turned harsh, jagged. "You think you can come back now, Amelia? You think this will change anything?" Those words struck Henry like a knife. "What do you mean?" "Enough! It's time to end this cycle!" she yelled, stepping forward, raw fury radiating from her as her presence swallowed the room like a beacon. The crowd shifted, eyes darting between the trio, stunned into silence. "Tell me the truth," Henry demanded, heart racing. "What did you hide?" Amelia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Your family isn't who you think we are. We were never the victims. We were the orchestrators of this chaos." Gasps erupted. Henry's chest tightened as something heavy sank in. "What?" But before she could respond, the room shook once again, this time with a rumble eerily familiar, like a breath before a tidal wave. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked. Fissures spiraling across the marble floor, serpentine and ominous. Nathan's laughter faded. Fear froze his face. And just then, everything transformed. A blinding light erupted from the cracks, illuminating the chaos. In that moment, as shadows danced around them, Henry realized the truth wasn't just shattered glass. It was all of them, intertwined in a web of betrayal, pain, and hidden powers. What had Amelia unleashed? What secrets lay buried beneath their facade? The air thickened with uncertainty as the light pulsed ominously, leaving everyone to wonder. What would happen next? The air crackled with tension, a palpable storm brewing in the hearts of everyone present. Henry's head spun, the revelations crashing over him like waves. Nathan, his estranged twin, stood before him, eyes blazing with a twisted kind of glee. The chaos swirled, a storm in the room. "Choose sides, dear brother," Nathan shouted, malice dripping from his voice. Fear rippled among the guests, anxiety crowding the atmosphere. But just as Henry opened his mouth to respond, another booming crack rumbled from above, almost drowning out Nathan's taunts. The room shuddered, panic igniting. Then came the sound, an ear-splitting crash from the upper balcony, as the grand chandelier, swinging wildly, came crashing down. People screamed, desperately scrambling away. Everything seemed to slow as the massive fixture fell toward them. Henry's heart raced. He leaped toward Sophia, pulling her out of the way. The chandelier shattered into a million pieces, scattering shards like dangerous confetti. The crowd erupted into chaos. "Get out!" Henry yelled, shoving Sophia and Carmen toward the door, but his eyes were locked on Nathan. The man stood unharmed, laughing amidst the destruction, drawing strength from the fear. What kind of monster was this? But before Henry could grasp the gravity of the moment, something extraordinary happened. Deep within the wreckage, a familiar figure emerged. Not Nathan, not Victor. A woman, face obscured by dust and debris, stepped through the chaos, soaking wet, but radiating a fierce sense of purpose. Henry's breath hitched. "Mom?" he gasped. How could this be? Their mother, Amelia, stood before them, as real as the destruction around them. How is this? A wave of questions crashed over him, each more shocking than the last. Hadn't she vanished years ago? Amelia raised her hand, silencing the cries. "I've come for you both," she called out, strong and unwavering. Henry felt the ground shake again, but it was no longer fear, it was recognition. She was here, but why now? What could be so important? "Stop this!" Amelia commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. The tension hung thick as silence descended for a moment, every eye fixed on her. "I sacrificed everything to protect you," she continued, gazing fiercely at Nathan. "You don't understand the truth of our family. We were never victims." "Enough of your lies," Nathan spat, the loving brother facade ripping apart. "You left me. You turned your back on all of us." Each word felt like a dagger. "What are you talking about?" Henry's voice quivered as he tried to maintain control amidst the revelations. "Your past, it isn't what you believe. We created this chaos. Our lineage is built on dark truths," Amelia revealed, every word hanging heavy, pulsating in the air. As she spoke, the floor began to tremble once more. This time wasn't just the storm outside. It was something deeper, a brewing conflict that rattled their very existence as walls began to crack. Just then, the truth erupted. "I know you aren't my mother." Nathan's voice broke through like a thunderclap. "You're not real." The words hung heavy. The crowd gasped, stunned. "What?" Henry's heart dropped. "Because it's time to reveal the ultimate secret," Nathan declared, grinning darkly. "I am not just the son of our father. I'm his creation, a piece of something much larger, a plan put into motion through you." Without a single warning, Nathan flicked his wrist, and the light pulsed angrily, swallowing the whole room in darkness. Moments later, the room flooded with an eerie glow, and in that haunting light, Nathan began to change. Morphing into a figure that was not him, yet strangely familiar. The crowd gasped, horrified. In front of them was not Nathan, but something else entirely. Matthew, their father, alive. "You thought you could escape who your family really is?" he boomed, voice echoing with terror. Henry staggered back, the truth unraveling like a tangled thread. How is this possible? Who were they really? As fear wrapped around him, the music once again swelled, rising to a thunderous climactic roar. The storm outside intensified, and the lines between reality and monstrosity blurred further than ever before. What had he just witnessed? And what did it mean for everything he thought he knew? As all of this unfolded in front of terrified eyes, a new horror began to surface, the air charged with electricity as the room trembled under the weight of distorted truths. Nathan's transformation into their father, Matthew, turned everything upside down. Henry's heart raced, and confusion clouded his mind. "What are you saying?" His voice trembled, every word dragging behind it the weight of memories long buried. "You always thought you were the victims, but you were never innocent. I made you," Matthew boomed, his voice echoing like a dark thunder. "I created this chaos. You think this is an accident?" Sophia stepped back, eyes wide with horror, as the implications took root. "No, this can't be true," she shouted. But as the cursed reality spun, the walls of the estate shuddered ominously. Suddenly, the ground split with a violent rumble, cracking like thunder. People screamed, rushes of panic flooding over them. The storm outside raged harder, rain pounding against the windows like a relentless beast. "Make it stop!" someone cried, desperate to escape the nightmare unfurling before them. Still, Matthew stood steady. "You will face the truth." Henry's throat tightened. What truth? This wasn't the man he longed to reconcile with. This was a monster dressed in familiar skin. Matthew raised a hand, eyes wild. "You think you have a single choice left? The world we built is one of despair, and it's all for your understanding." "I don't understand anything," Henry screamed, his voice slicing through the chaos. But the laughter echoed back. Nathan flickered again, a glint of madness in his eyes. "You're too late, brother. The truth is, I'm the one who should have led. I had the power all along." Henry felt crushed under the weight of what was happening. As if sensing his turmoil, Amelia stepped forward. "No, you can't let him twist this. Henry, we are bound by blood. We can defeat this." "Defeat what?" Nathan scoffed, stepping closer. The energy shifted. Matthew exuded a commanding power, while Nathan radiated chaos. Amelia held Henry's gaze. "It's not just the music or the lies. Our family has been cursed for generations. It was never about just you. It's deeper." Then, the piercing voice of the crowd faded into the background. The music rose to a fervent crescendo, harmonizing with the chaos, getting louder, demanding attention like a trapped animal. "Enough!" Matthew shouted, and suddenly everything stopped. The air grew thick with thick tension. Silence fell as if it held its breath. Then, with one sickening crack, a hidden door within the mansion burst open. A wave of icy wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candles, plunging them into a chilling darkness. "What now?" someone whispered, trembling. In the eerie dimness, shadows twisted as if alive, while flashes of light darted through, illuminating figures draped in flowing robes, faces obscured, emerging from the opening. They glided forward, moving rhythmically, drawing every eye with their ethereal presence. Henry's breath caught in his throat. Who were these strangers? They filled the space with an ancient energy, threading familiarity into the air, even as fear prickled along his skin. "Guardians of the legacy," one of them spoke, voice echoing like distant bells. "The time has come for reclaiming what was lost and what you've stolen." "What do you mean?" Matthew hissed, stepping forward, furious and defenseless at the same time. "Your family has broken the balance for too long," the figure continued, words heavy with an ancient gravity. "You are not the creators you think you are. It is time to pay the price." The crowd gasped collectively, shock tumbling over them like stones. Henry felt the pull of truth unraveling. What price? What have we done? The Guardian turned to Henry, their face cloaked but eyes piercing into his very soul. "Your destiny is entwined. All of you. Blood cannot forget, nor can it forgive. Secrets hidden in music are echoes seeking resolution." Suddenly, there was a blinding flash. The room surged with light, throwing everything into stark relief, piercing through all the shadows. In the commotion, figures blurred, shapes merging with light. Nathan, Matthew, Amelia, and the cloaked guardians. And then, Henry felt it, an electric current coursing through him, demanding to unleash a truth buried deep within. His eyes widened in horror, heart racing. "No, this can't be my fate." But as the light swallowed him, everything shifted. Then darkness fell. The air tasted of ashes, Gone was the storm, leaving behind an eerie stillness. The guardians vanished, and in the silence it struck Henry like a flood. What truly lay ahead? Would the echo of their family's sins finally arise? It dawned on him. The real story was just beginning. A web of ancient curses and bloodlines tangled in fate. Where would this lead? What truths remained to be uncovered? The world spun back to life with a sharp intake of breath. Henry stood amidst the wreckage, pulse thundering in his ears. The once stifling silence exploded into disarray, chaotic whispers threading through the crowd. Faces blurred in his mind, shock etched into every expression as truth settled heavily upon them. "Choose your fate!" Amelia's voice rang out, calling them back to the present. Shadows clung to everyone, but Henry felt a flicker of strength, igniting deeper within him. "Enough!" Henry shouted, conviction sharpening his voice. "We have to break free from this cycle. The legacy, let's redefine it!" Gasps echoed. Nathan's face twisted in fury. "You think you can change everything? You think you are the hero here? You are nothing." But there it was, a pulse of unity among them, born in the heart of chaos. "No, I am not alone," Henry said, locking eyes with Sophia, Carmen, and Sarabelle. "We are all here, standing together. It's time to confront this horror." The guardians shifted, their ghostly forms glowing with anticipation. "You must face your darkness," one intoned, voice echoing like a chorus of thunder. "Only then can you claim your truth." The room trembled, walls vibrating with energy. Matthew, no, Nathan, let loose a chilling laugh. "You can't defeat me. I am the darkness." The terror. But Henry felt it rising in his chest like a storm gathering speed. "We have something you don't," he declared. "Hope and love for one another burns brighter than any deceit." With a sudden surge, the collective voices of the crowd erupted, a resonating chant. "Together, we are stronger." It reverberated, a melody cutting through the shadows. A blinding light consumed the room as the guardians reached out, intertwining their hands in a barrier of brilliance. It felt like a breath of fresh air surging through all the pain. The power washed over Henry like fire. "No!" Nathan shrieked, skin shimmering, shifting like shadows. But it was too late. With one final flash, they surged forward, the guardians and the united family melting together. The darkness torn apart. The room exploded with light. Then silence fell, absolute and profound. When Henry opened his eyes, the room stood serene, bathed in daylight. The storm didn't follow them here. Was it over? The remnants of nightmares faded like mist in the morning sun. Faces sparkled with relief. "We did it," Henry breathed, disbelief mixing with exhilaration. Sophia gripped his hand tightly as Carmen wiped tears away. Even Nathan, despite the turmoil, now looked fragile, humanized by the unexpected truth. Amelia smiled, a glimmer of tenderness in her eyes. "You found your way back, my children, together." But then a voice, weak but clear, broke the flutter of renewal. "What happens now?" Sarabelle asked, eyes shining with hope and uncertainty. The question echoed in the silence, hanging heavy like a loaded curtain. Henry looked around. They had reclaimed their voices, but what would they build from their fragmented past? "I don't know," he said softly, honesty spilling from his lips. "But we can rewrite our story. From here on, it's ours to shape." And as rays of warmth filled the room, the future stretched before them, an open road with many paths. Hope bloomed within the uncertainty, vibrant against the shadows that had once loomed so large. Then, out of nowhere, a thought flickered in his mind. like a spark begging to be fanned into a flame. And just as the air thickened with possibility, the edge of doubt crept back in. Was their fight truly over? Or would the shadows still linger, waiting to resurface? The end felt like a beginning, a promise suspended in the air, a mystery clinging to the story yet to unfold. But before you move on, there's something important. You must subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button now. It's the moment to show your support and help us all grow together. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories about the ending, everything you're thinking. And don't wait one more.